Back to our top story now, with just hours to go until temporary protected status for Somalia is expected to expire.
But a federal judge's order just last week could delay it. Our Audrey Russo's in the newsroom with what we know at this hour. Hey, Audrey.
Yeah, Homeland Security is poised to terminate temporary protected status for Somali nationals at 11:59 tonight. Now, Friday, a judge halted that expiration, giving Somali nationals with TPS momentary relief to plan their next move. Now, take a look at this. Minneapolis city officials posted on social media. You can see right there, they're encouraging those with TPS to talk to a lawyer and seek other legal avenues to stay in the country. Right now, there's roughly 400 Somali nationals in Minnesota with TPS. Now, temporary protected status was offered to Somali nationals back in the 90s as they fled civil war in the country. The Trump administration vowed to end it back in January, encouraging Somali nationals to self-deport by offering them a free plane ticket and a $1,000 exit bonus. Now, Friday's ruling from the federal judge gives both the feds and immigration advocates the chance to file their arguments. But this is just the start of what could be a lengthy legal battle.
This is an update to a video that I posted yesterday. My speculation that all hell is going to break loose here in Minnesota as the temporary protected status for hundreds of Somali immigrants here in Minnesota is expiring on this day, March 17th, St. Patrick's Day. I did a little bit more digging as I was prepping for the show this morning because there still is no local news coverage over this. I found stories of when President Donald Trump moved forward to end the temporary protected status back in January when Minnesota was dominating the national news headlines over revelations that some 80 to 90% of the upwards of $19 billion in fraud was being committed by members of the Somali community. Well, it turns out that on Friday, I found one story where a former President Barack Obama appointed judge put in a temporary block to the expiration of the temporary protected status that, again, was supposed to start today. Now, what's ridiculous about this is the fact that the judge admits that, one, it's temporary to allow the individuals who might be affected by this to get their affairs in order, but also acknowledges the fact that she's sticking her nose into an issue of which she shouldn't be sticking her nose into. In her ruling, she acknowledges that this is controversial. The truth of the matter is, it's just another example of Trump derangement syndrome. Why? Because if this judge actually cared about immigrants here in Minnesota, they would have put that temporary block in place a month and a half ago to allow Somali immigrants to go and deal with this. Now, there's a temporary block. This may help a few people, but what about the Somali immigrants here in Minnesota that may, out of fear of being deported, may have already self-deported? This judge doesn't care about the rule of law. They just care about thumbing their nose or putting up their middle finger to President Donald Trump. Eventually, this is going to go through, and wait, when it does and the deportations start, my other prediction will come true. This will more than likely be worse than Operation Metro Surge. Check out my weekly radio show Monday through Friday, 6 until 9 a.m. Central Time on the iHeartRadio app, and thanks for watching.
Hey guys, I have another Minnesota update for you. Please help me get this information out there. I've said it before, but these apps are suppressing Minnesota content. They want you to think that it's over here, and it's not. I live here, and even I have to go out and search Minnesota content because it's not coming across my feeds. So please help. I'm currently getting reports that our occupiers are going back for round 2. They are going back to the homes of people they've already tried to detain and knocking on their doors, trying to get them to come out of their houses. Aside from that, there's still so many sightings across the metro and across the state. We know what hotels they're staying at. We know that they're changing their plates. They are driving cars that make them look like handymen. They are dressing up as not what they are. I even got a report that even now they are still following school buses and going to bus stops. Now, I want to show you this clip from the Whipple Federal Building. That's where they take detainees in Minnesota. Look at all of the new cars that have been delivered in the last couple weeks.
So by my count, there's about 60 to 70 Tahoes that I can see in the lot, but according to the chats, there's been 12 fleets spotted and up to 80 new Tahoes that have arrived at the Whipple Federal Building.
Now, I try really hard not to fearmonger unnecessarily, but I have to share this with you because I'm really concerned that something's going to happen soon. You saw all of those cars. and pair that with the fact that temporary protected status for our Somali community and a few other immigrant communities ends next week on March 17th. It ends for those communities all across the country. But Minnesota has the largest Somali community in the entire country. And there are 400 to 600 Somalis that have TPS. And so when that gets stripped away from them next week, what are all those cars for? So if you live in Minnesota, my message to you is that we have to stay diligent and we have to stay ready. And if you are outside of Minnesota, help me get this message out.
Right now, tensions are exploding across communities as thousands of Somali immigrants in the United States face the threat of deportation, and the backlash is getting louder by the day. Families are speaking out, advocates are warning of serious harm, and now the federal judge has stepped in at the last minute to stop it. But here's the question nobody is really asking. Was this ever about safety, or is it something bigger going behind the scene? Welcome back to my channel. Thank you for always sticking around. Welcome back to my channel. Thank you for sticking with us. And if you're new here, this is a space for real conversation about real situation, no filter, no noise. Go ahead to hit that like button, turn on notifications so you never miss a video like this. Now, before we get into it, just a quick note. This video is for commentary and informational purposes only. We are discussing a developing situation based on publicly available reports, and perspective may vary as more details come out. As also, credit goes to the original creators for every single clip used in this episode. Let's see this clip.
So here's a temporary protected status update. TPS for Honduras and Nepal has ended. TPS for the Somali population was to end today, March 17th. However, on March 13th, a federal court issued a stay blocking this move. DHS have repeatedly said the Somali people no longer meet the requirements for TPS as the conditions of Somalia has significantly improved. We already know this is going to appellate courts. There are approximately 2,500 Somali nationals currently holding TPS, and there are approximately 1,300 pending applications as of late 2025. The Supreme Court is set to hear arguments in late April regarding TPS for over 350,000 Haitians and several thousand Syrian nationals. And of course, their TPS status is protected until their cases are heard in Supreme Court. And thank goodness these cases are being heard by the Supreme Court, because ultimately they set precedents for all the other cases. So my hope is the Supreme Court rules in favor of DHS.
Ending the TPS program for Somalia does not align with the facts, the purpose of the program, or the basic humanitarian principle. This decision, we know, is political. It is not logical. It sends a dangerous message to even most clear humanitarian protections can be dismantled without regard for the reality. When protections are stripped from Somalis, despite undeniable conditions, the entire TPS program and the framework of it is broken. And so we are encouraging everyone who's on TPS program to immediately reach out to organizations, or if they have an immigration attorney, please consult with the immigration attorney. Do not make any decisions at this moment without consulting.
hambalyo waxaan halkan hambalyo ugu dirayaa dhammaan reer TPS, dadka TPS-ka wadankan Mareykanka ku joogay. Awguuriyo Allah dacwadiina waa aqbalay. Waxaan rabaa marka inaan idin sheego news hadda soo baxay 7 saac ka hor ayaa wuxuu sheegayaa Reuters ayuu ka soo baxay newskaasoo ah in TPS-ka ee Soomaalida oo markaas loogu talagalay March 17-ka inuu ku ekaado Soomaalida la rabay inay wadankooda dib ugu noqdaan in uu ka hor yimid xaakin wadankan jooga uu yiray si temporary ah cid markaa wadankan ka bixi karta haba yaraatee ma jirto. Haddii aad fiidiyodeeda aad dhegaysataan aad fiirisaan waxaan hadda ka hor idin sheegay waxaa laga rabaa administrative-ka ama xukuumadda Donald Trump inay soo cadeeyaan wadanka Soomaaliya hadduu yahay wadan nabad ah oo lagu noqon kara. Taas ayaa laga rabay. Waxaa jiro wadooyin kalena inay raacaan. Marka wadankan Mareykanka wuxuu yahay madaxweynaha amaradiisa waxaa ka hor imaan kara xaakin, waxaa ka hor imaan kara supreme courtiga marka madaxweynaha amar wuu fuli karaa laakiin awood uma laha in markaas amaradiisaas inay markaa hirgelaan waa laga hor imaan karaa marka sidaas ayaa loo xakameeyaa awoodiisa marka xaakimkaasaa ka hor yimid oo hadda waxaa loo ogolaaday dadka TPS wadankan Mareykanka ku jooga special Soomaalida inay wadankooda ay kasii shaqaystaan ay ku noolaadaan ay familkooda iyo ay ku dhex jiraan ayaa loo ogolaaday alxamdulillah awguuri waxaan rabay inaan newskaas farxadda leh inaan idinla wadaago haddii aad marka beeshkan ku cusub tahay fadlan follow dheh walaalaha kalena la sheegaray assalaamu calaykum waraxmatullaahi wabarakatuh.
Hey guys, I'm in New York City for the weekend, but that doesn't mean the Minnesota updates stop. I've got 3 updates for you, all regarding judicial rulings. The first ruling is that a judge on Friday has postponed the ending of TPS for the Somali community here in Minnesota and across the country. This is great news. If you saw my March 12th update, you'll know that we were very worried about the actions of the Frozen Water Army and the ending of TPS for our Somali community. Now, this doesn't mean that we're out of the woods yet because litigation is ongoing, but I am hopeful. A judge has also ruled that a Minnesota man who was detained with his 2-year-old daughter has to be returned to Minnesota. I believe they are in Texas right now and they are coming home. And lastly, a judge has ruled that at least 23 people were racially profiled and illegally detained in Minnesota during Operation Metro Surge. That's all for the Minnesota news, but I just want to say to our friends in Vermont, we see you, we love you. We are so sorry this is happening to you. Minnesotans wanted this to end with us. We never want this to happen to anybody else, but just know that this isn't your fault. And they are targeting you because they think they can break you, but you're going to show them that you can't be broken. You've got this. We've got your back. Ask us for help. We will be there.
Some Somalis have filed a lawsuit challenging U.S. President Donald Trump's administration over its plans to end temporary protected status for more than 1,000 Somali immigrants, which could pave the way for their deportation. Temporary protected status TPS is a special U.S. government program that allows migrants facing risk of conflicts, natural disasters, or persecution in their home countries to move to the U.S., having the right to live and work there with no risk of deportation. Announcing the decision to terminate such status for Somalis, outgoing Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem said in January that Somalia's conditions had improved, suggesting that the Somalis could go back home. However, 4 Somalis and 2 advocacy groups have filed a lawsuit in a Boston federal court on Monday, 9th March, challenging the decision, arguing that the move was procedurally flawed and driven by a discriminatory, predetermined agenda. They cite a series of statements President Trump made, such as describing Somalis as garbage and low IQ people who contribute nothing. The Trump comments had been widely condemned within and outside the U.S. The plaintiffs, who include the groups African Communities Together and Partnership for the Advancement of New Americans, said the Trump administration's decision is due to an constitutional bias against non-white immigrants. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security has not yet publicly commented on the court case. However, it previously said that the TPS was never intended to be a de facto amnesty program. The Trump administration has moved to end the program for thousands of people from several countries, including Ethiopia, South Sudan, Cameroon, and Haiti. The TPS was first approved for Somalia in 1991 due to the country's civil war, with its latest extension being in 2024. According to the Department of Homeland Security, at least 1,082 Somalis currently hold TPS and 1,383 more have pending applications. Over 260,000 people of Somali descent live in the U.S., with the majority now citizens residing in Minnesota, according to a 2024 survey by the U.S. Census Bureau. Somali Americans are increasingly visible in politics, with Democrat Congresswoman Ilhan Omar being a prominent critic of the Republican Trump administration, which has intensified immigration crackdown.
Maanta waxaa soo baxay good news. Somali TPS. TPS temporary protected status Soomaalida haysatay. Maxkamaddii la xareeyey go'aan buu soo saaray judge-kii. Go'aankii wuxuu noqday in Donald Trump ficilkii uu ku kacay uu yidhi March 17 TPS-ta way istaagaysaa, expire bay noqonaysaa, protection lama siinayo dadkan uu yidhi in laga hor istaagay sida kuwii hore South Sudanese-ka, Haitian-ka, Ethiopian-ka, kuwii kale TPS-yada kale haystay oo kale tii Soomaalidana in Trump laga hor istaagay oo laga block gareeyey. taa macnaheeda waxaa weeye March 17 oo nooga dhiman 4 maalmood TPS expire ma noqonayso. iyaguna hadday appeal ka qaataan iyo halkay maxkamadda ku soo dhamaato iyo wixii ka soo kordho waan soo sheegi doonaa. midda kale waxaan soo akhrin doonaa detailka maxkamadda iyo waxa maaragta kale ku jira insha Allah. tan waa hordhac weeye in good news uu soo baxay maanta. TPS la joojiyey oo laga hor istaagay odaygii madaxa oranjada lahaa.
So here is where things stand. A federal judge has temporarily blocked the move to end TPS for Somali immigrants, people who have been living and working in the US under temporary status. This decision didn't happen in isolation. There has been concerns about what could happen if protection are removed, including instability, uncertainty, and the challenge of returning to a country still facing complex situations. For many, these situations affect their daily lives, their families, and their future. At the same time, the government urges that conditions in Somalia has improved and that TPS program were designed to be temporal, not long-term solution. From that perspective, the focus is on enforcing immigrant policy as originally intended. But here is where things get tricky. Who ultimately has the authority to make this decision? The court or the executive branch? And how should that power be balanced? Should judges have the power to pause decisions like this? Or should immigration policy be left entirely to the government? The ruling is temporal, the legal process is still ongoing, and the final outcome hasn't been decided. Whatever happens next could have long-term effects on how immigration policies are handled in the United States. So let me ask you, should temporary protection stay in place longer, or should policy move forward once condition is considered improved? And what do you think? Is this about policy? Or are there factors influencing these decisions? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear what you think. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's have a conversation. And if you appreciate real balance breakdown like this, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share this video. Before we go, I want to leave you with these few questions. Why did the court postpone TPS for Somalis? What could be their ulterior motive? Do you think they have the final say on decisions like this? Let me hear your thoughts. See you in my next episode.